but basically I'm a rugby player Hi, I'm Muddy. I'm originally from the UK, but I kind of grew up in Hong Kong and a little bit around the world as well. I'm currently a fitness and strength and conditioning and CrossFit coach here.
Hi guys, my name is Jackie and I'm born and raised here in Hong Kong. I am a fitness instructor, mainly teaching indoor cycling, but through spinning I managed to get myself into more of the fitness side of things and learning about strength training and how much that benefits our body and into the sports that we do as well. So that's how it became however, I wanted to introduce myself also as a human. We are also humans out here, even as coaches, even when we're teaching.
That's great. Yeah, I think it leads us nicely into our first question. So I'm just curious to know what does body image and the conversation about body image mean to each of you? Why is it something that you're passionate about talking about? And yeah, share with us why it is. Share with us. Thanks, Alexa. Share with us why it is that body image is a topic that you think is worth discussing and sharing with our community. So, and anyone can start.
I can start. I feel like I'll go into this later, but kind of through my personal journey with body image and playing rugby, especially growing up in Asia, in Shanghai with my mom is Chinese, there's a lot of kind of conflict and tensions between, body image, femininity ideals, and then you have rugby on the other end of that spectrum. So a couple years ago, I realized that this is something that I really want to turn into a bit more of a passion project. And still in the works, but definitely want to just start that conversation and make sure that we're creating awareness around this topic, especially in Hong Kong and in Asia for the girls growing up and playing sport, for the older women who didn't actually go to the gym or play sport because of some of these struggles, and then for all the other female athletes out there to just start this conversation so we can relate to one another and everyone kind of understands a little bit of what everyone else is going through.
I love how you touch on that, the fact that it affects anyone of any age group. It's not just, teens may struggle or seem to struggle with it more, but then it actually affects many other older women as well. So it's a very important thing.
I'll go. And I think it's really important to have these conversations. I think it was maybe something that, reflecting on my journey, that I didn't have when I was younger. Maybe I did have it, but I never kind of felt that I was able to be that vulnerable. Just talking about it, but also asking my friends about it, creating that conversation, creating safe spaces. And I think being from a slightly different background to Sofie, but growing up in Asia, I was always torn between performance versus aesthetics. And I'll get into it a little bit later on, but I kind of struggled with a few injuries in my career that took performance out of it, but really brought up a lot about aesthetics and the pressure to be small, feminine, petite, but I also wanted to see performance goals. So I think that also led me into my career of,
that's good.
Whoa, oh God. It led me into my career of being a strength coach and learning more about your physical body and understanding that it's more about how it makes you feel, what you do, rather than what you look like, but also opening up that space on the floor for other people to really connect with. And I think it's something that everyone seems to go through at some point in their life. It's just finding the people that you can talk about with it to actually feel like you're part of something.
That's awesome. And hopefully we'll also have a community here to talk about that today. Yeah.
Shall we? I'm so glad, by the way. I just taught 2 classes with boys. Okay. Body image actually to me was, interestingly enough, it was very subtle and it was very just seeps in here and there throughout life, including growing up being bullied in school, and I think it's mainly the fact that the way that they wanted to hurt me is through body image. It could be anything. It could be academics. It could be anything about you as a person, but they always would target you through fat. Oh, you're so fat. Oh, you're this, you're that, And actually, funny enough, it's one thing to feel hurt. Thank you so much, Alexa. But it's another that I'm interesting enough that it always just comes from body image. and that, you know, when people see you, the first thing that they see is aesthetics, and so that somehow ties down towards you and your identity, which I'm always kind of like very interesting, because why is it that how you look is going to judge you as a person? You know, like your personality characteristic is the same if you're 10% body fat or 20% body fat. You know, so I think ultimately knowing that this, like, image is one thing, but just knowing that you can stay true to who you are and what you believe in, and acknowledging your strengths and weaknesses is more important than how you look in the person. So.
Yeah, that's a great reminder, and I think, you know, in Chinese culture, a lot of times we say, it's the first greeting we say is like, "Wow, 你肥咗啊," or, you know, you've gained weight, and it becomes almost a cultural norm that this is a way of greeting people. But yeah, definitely it's a great reminder that perhaps, you know, there is a different way of greeting others, or you know, learning about others when we first meet them. So yeah, that's a great way to start our panel as well. Yeah, and now I wanted to go into some more specific questions for each of our panelists. And obviously feel free to interact with each other as we go along as well. These are just guiding questions. So, Soph, I know that you're a rugby athlete, and I know that you just earlier you discussed that you kind of grappled between attaining more traditional or societal body image standards, but also the need to look a certain way for your sport. And also grown up Chinese, and so this kind of has this cultural, you know, the two different cultures that you've grown up with have kind of informed your view of body image as well. So I'm just wondering whether you could share a little bit more about your personal experiences of navigating these barriers and these challenges, and where you are in your journey now.
Yeah, just to relate back to what Jackie was saying about we live in a society where, especially for females, we're so focused on the way we look. Like, that's how brands sell to us, right? Like fashion brands, makeup brands, shave your arms. Like, it's always focused on the aesthetics. And I think, honestly, before, like, a year ago, 2 years ago, I wasn't aware of the environment that I had grown up in Shanghai was that all around the world, but even more intensified. I don't know, Chinese culture is, like you just said, super focused on comparing yourself to other women, the way you look, staying small, and it definitely comes a lot from my mom. So I actually used to be a dancer, and then when I switched to rugby, there was a big negative response from my mom when I transitioned, and it was, you know, it's, oh, your legs are getting bigger, your shoulders are so wide. And yes, it was my mom, but it was also my dad. Like, he's German, but there was still this, oh, like, yes, you can play rugby, but let's not go look like those big CrossFit ladies and the big professional female rugby players with the wide shoulders. And I think I always think, like, if that was a different environment, if I grew up in somewhere like New Zealand, would that have been, there would have been a different tone towards body. But yeah, so kind of grew up in Shanghai with that ingrained, so what, like 18 years there. Went to university in the US and played rugby there. And that's when I started realizing there are so many other girls who feel this way, because my rugby team, we'd go to the gym because we had mandatory lifts. And it was like, we're trying to train for this sport where you want to squat a lot, you want to bench a lot, you want to take a lot of impact because that's injury prevention. But a lot of girls are like, oh, I know I can lift more, but I'm actually going to take the lighter dumbbell because I don't want to get bigger. And you're like, okay, well, let's just go with that. And I didn't think there was anything kind of off with it until COVID brought me to Hong Kong, started going to Coastal Fitness, which is a CrossFit gym. And that's where I met Lottie, who was then my coach, and now we're good friends.
It was literally the first conversation we ever had when we met each other as well.
Yeah, well, one of the first is about weights. And I remember meeting her and seeing her put just weight after weight on her barbell that she was squatting, and I was like, she's actually pushing herself in the gym. It was weird to see, because I was used to, just like go through the motions of lifting to do the lift, versus no, she's actually trying to be stronger. And then as she started coaching me, I went to more of her classes. I would go grab like the 10 kg or the 12 kg dumbbell, knowing that I could probably lift more. And then I'd go back to it after doing like a different exercise, and then suddenly the weight had changed to like 15 kg. And it was because she went behind my back to go switch the weights. And she was like, Sofie, you know you can lift more than this, like actually push yourself. Because I think without actually talking about it yet, she knew, because she's gone through the same thing, what was in my mind, which was, oh, like stay small, stay feminine, don't lift more than the guy in the gym next to you, because that's embarrassing for him. Like, make him feel okay. And yeah, you just understood. So
yeah, and I actually remember asking you, like, when I gave you the heavier weights or something like that. It's not necessarily as much how you lift or whatever, but like I remember asking you, how do you feel? You know, and like, it was like the language you were using around. You're like, I feel powerful, like, you know, and it was like really positive language rather than like, oh, I feel like I'm gonna get bulky. And I think like that's something I also see a lot being like a coach as well. Not only like my identity as like a coach, but I get a lot of, especially women come to me being like, you know, I want to be fit, I want to be strong, but like I don't want to put on too much muscle, you know, and things like that. And it's kind of, okay, well, how does it make you feel? And it's not that I'm disregarding that language around it. It's kind of digging a little bit deeper into the why in people's story. And it's usually kind of the story that we've told ourselves, or like their environment that we've grown up in. Like I grew up in Hong Kong as well, and I literally remember there was like competitions at school. It was really weird, like when we were at lunchtime, to see who could eat the least. Like it was bizarre. And I just remember being like, this is so abnormal to me, but I was doing so much sport on the side that I kind of wasn't paying attention to how I needed to fuel my body and like educating myself on that side. So I was really torn with that. And I think when I see clients come in and they say about more the aesthetics of, I don't want to get too big, like they almost like, I don't want to look like you, like no offense, you know, like that's okay. I can take it, like, but I just ask them a few more questions because I know it's nothing personal and maybe it's something that they haven't uncovered themselves. So
that's interesting as well, because to tie it back to what Jackie was saying about people, you know, everyone, especially females, caring about aesthetics and looks, it's almost like ironic that like women come to you saying, I don't want to get bulky because then I'll feel more insecure about my body. But the insecurity and focus that we have on the way our bodies look actually is already there, because it comes from the magazines, Instagram, banners. It's already there because those are the ones trying to tell you to look a certain way or stay small. And then when you start going to the gym, when you start playing rugby, or when you start doing whatever sport that you want to go do, you feel, instead of like, you think you feel more insecure because you're getting bulkier, but you actually, it's the opposite effect. You end up not caring about what you look like and what you can do with your body.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also about like how it makes you feel, right? You know, like, yeah, it's the mindset, it's the language, it's how it makes you feel. And I think like with that, on my coaching journey myself, you know, I look back at maybe the last 5 years and I've been up and down with the way I look and my aesthetics, and that's okay, because also I really enjoy putting myself through like different challenges or different experiments, because if I put myself through it, then I can also relate to my clients that are going through it. And I think I look back at a couple years ago, and aesthetically I was probably your most ideal. I was very small, I was quite lean. I was, for a coach, that's what people look for. They're like, oh, she looks fit, she's got muscles, she's got a six-pack, like, I want to coach with her, I want to train with her. But I think at that point, I was probably the lowest I was in my mental health. I was probably in the darkest place that I've ever been. And it's not until I started digging deeper into that why and asking myself those questions and actually taking care of myself, like educating myself, doing the training that made me feel good, that didn't feel like a punishment, it didn't feel like an escape from somewhere. That's when I actually started to gain that confidence, and I was also able to connect with people. And like the people that I train with now and my clients are the people that I have genuine connections with, rather than they're coming to me for a certain aesthetic and they want to look a certain way, or they're only training with me because I look a certain way. And I think that's also what we found, like coaching and kind of like client and like friendship is like, we actually had this like deeper bond that was found in a gym. That's awesome, but it doesn't have to be a gym. It can be a team sport. It can be like sailing, it can be climbing, it can be whatever you're doing. It's just about how it makes you feel. And with that, you have a lot more energy to show up for yourself, to show up in your relationships, to educate yourself and everything else that it kind of all elevates. Okay? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wanted to add on to that because from the conversation we just had, I feel like it came around to the word limiting. The fact that aesthetics is limiting you to feel like you should be getting stronger. That you go to the gym, you're like, oh, I shouldn't be holding the heavy weight because I need to look thin, and so I'm just. But why wouldn't you want to like, you know, like, be able to put yourself into challenge yourself, gaining strength, instead of being like, oh, I'm not gonna hold that weight because I need to stay lean. It sounds like prisoning, and like what you said about going into like mental health and all of that. You know, it's like you feel so imprisoned in having to be in a certain way or look a certain way, or like changing your lifestyle to look a certain way. No, I mean, yes, definitely if you need to like lose weight and all that for health reasons, you know, or having a sustainable lifestyle, great. But then like after that, it's like, yeah, just not, oh, I'm not going to go to the gym because that's going to make me look a certain way. You know, it's like letting go of that fear and just live life.
Yeah, and I think the first step to that is like bringing awareness to your thoughts and the language that you tell yourself. Like, why are you going to the gym? Why are you going to do this sport? Is it to fit in? Is it to punish yourself from the previous night's like dinner or your indulgence over the weekend? Is it, oh, I'm actually like, I remember going to the gym 2 hours so hard before I go on a junk because I was like, I want to feel like I look good, like just before a junk boat. You know, just asking yourself why. And if you can't ask yourself, like, you know, talk to a friend. Like, understand the language you have around it, because if you're enjoying that process and you're enjoying like physically what you're doing, you actually see, or you feel, not see, you feel the benefits of it, right? And it's more sustainable. And
Lottie, do you want to talk a little bit more about your experiences too? Because you've mentioned to me that, you know, earlier you were saying that you went through a certain period of injury and that really affected the way that you viewed yourself as well as your sense of identity. So maybe could you share a little bit more about learning to appreciate that diversity of people's bodies as well as what our bodies can do for us on a daily basis and what you've learned so far and how you're approaching that mindset?
Sure. So I guess a little bit of background on that was growing up, I played a lot of netball. I kind of almost went towards like the professional side of netball, and going through like the Hong Kong development squad and going into university for netball. I got into university based on that, and my third day at university, I tore my ACL. It was my first day back from shoulder reconstruction, so I had been out for quite a while. And it actually ended up in 2 years. I had 2 ACL reconstructions, and I kind of needed another one. I didn't get it because COVID hit. But I think going to university, identifying as either an athlete or a sportswoman, thinking that that's where my social side is going to be, that's when I'm going to spend most of my time, and then it happening on my third day and kind of going around freshers on like crutches and like in a wheelchair was kind of a crisis, I'm not going to lie. And I didn't really process it until afterwards because I had to have a second operation. And it really made me question how I see myself because I wasn't identifying with a sports team or with the girls there. So I kind of struggled to make some friends. But now that I have those group of friends, they're amazing and they're my people for life. And it also kind of let me down the route of what I do as a job today. It kind of allowed me to look into appreciating your body for its function and how we can work through rehabilitation, strengthening the female body, actually understanding, educating myself a little bit more on like why ACL tears and things like that happen, and the rehab process. So I went through the identity crisis of an athlete, but with that, I think also a lot of my body image issues kind of came up out of the water because I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, and my body changed, and that's also okay. But it led me down the career that I do now, and I kind of had a struggle going into that because I thought it would cure it. I thought that putting myself into this whole like education behind getting strong, you know, building muscle, everything like that, when actually it had like the reverse effect on my body image, and I became more insecure than ever. And I really went on this journey of appreciating what my body can do, how it functions, but also working with people that everybody's body is individual and so different, you know, and it's about, like I always say, like how it makes you feel, what you can do, and taking each step based on you and where you are in your journey. And having that, like knee operations, that kind of drew me back to square one. It was like, I had a big question above my head. I was like, how am I defined, you know? Like, am I defined as a coach? Am I defined as an athlete? Am I defined as a daughter? Like, all through sport, like all through my body. And yeah, I think it really made me appreciate just having an able body, for one, but also testing things and, you know, trying something new and going based on feel and understanding that process as well. Yeah.
We were chatting before about, you were just saying, like, are you a coach, are you an athlete, are you blah, 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 and you can be all those things, but I think we were talking about this just before the panel. We have this idea of what an athlete should look like or what a coach should look like, and I know that that's something you talk a lot about, but, you know, a coach doesn't need to have a six-pack and really nice back muscles to be a really good coach. Like, they can look however they want to be. Or something I say is, like, I feel like this, when I go into a gym, I feel pressure because I look strong and then I lift, but then a girl who's smaller than me can lift way more, or she's way fitter than I am, and that's like awesome because you don't want to feel that pressure of she's smaller, so she's therefore not stronger. Like, I look strong, but I'm not actually that strong. So it's like, it doesn't matter what you look like. It really goes back down to what you say. Like, if performance is your goal, it matters how you perform. If feeling good is your goal, then it matters how you feel. And I think, yeah, a lot of the time I'm like, there's all this overthinking in my brain when I train and go to the gym. But if I think of it as like, okay, I'm going to the massage place to get a foot massage because it makes me feel good, and you're not thinking about anything else, you're like, I want to go to the gym feeling like that. Like, nothing else matters. The looks doesn't matter then.
Yeah, and I think, like, you look at the people who you're surrounded by and, like, your people, right? Do they see you for, like, what you look like or who you are, you know? And talk to yourself exactly how you talk to your best friend or your partner. You know, people don't see you based on your muscles, on your hips, on whatever it is. They see you for who you are. And the people that truly do will, like, stick around for that, and they'll support you through anything.
Yeah. That's a really nice segue into my question for Jackie. Which is, you know, Jackie, you'd mentioned to me that sometimes, and we talked about it a bit before too, so success as a trainer in Hong Kong seems to often be aligned with the way that you look, and that's something that you are passionate about discussing. So would you like to share a little bit more about that, Jackie?
Yes. Repeat it a bit later. So my background's a little slightly different from you two because I don't have a sports background. I actually only started spinning at the age of 19, if I remember correctly, 2017. How much is it? 7 years ago. So before that, I was in club promoting, I was in marketing, I was doing a major in communications, and the only reason I hopped into cycling was because of health benefits, literally just for my own body. And then so I got into fitness because for the love of strengthening and giving love back to yourself as well. Okay, so back then I've tried like being vegan for like a year, lost a lot of weight because literally was just under eating. Okay, like it would be moments where I'm at a Chinese dinner and then we've got like the abalones and the fish and all of that, and I'll be like, I'm not touching any of this because now I'm vegan and I don't touch it. You know, so I lost weight because of that, and that isn't actually healthy, if I must say, because I was purely just eating because there's a leaf. You know, I'll eat the leaf because I can eat that, and not because like I didn't know how to like, you know, manage nutrition and like the protein side of things. And then from that sort of state, I hopped into spin, and then I went into spin training where it was like very intensive, 6 weeks. Still didn't think much about nutrition, completely didn't understand that was even a thing, because for me, I'm just like, I finally got into like working out, you know, like health. And then I remember during the trainings, there were moments when after 3 hours of like cycling, I come out trying to have dinner with a friend, I'll sit down, and this is gonna sound so bad, but like every 5 minutes, my body, like my stomach was not settled, and then so I'll be hurling, even though I had no food in my system. It's just like, nope, here you go, like your body's just in like absolute shock. And then so from there, I had to learn to like pick up on like meats again and like eggs and all that, and learning how food matters so much into working out and health and like everything, and how we need protein in order to survive. And like that's when I learned about all of that. And then so going from there, I remember, because I said I got into strength training as I realized that it benefits me in terms of my sport, which is in spin. And then so I was very thankful enough that I got a job to train to become a coach, and at the same time I get to go through a whole lot, like, you know, 3 months of like transformation, which is the transformation being just lifting and learning how to gain strength. And then from there, I remember like within 1 month or 2 months in, so like obviously in terms of body, you're not changing that much. It wasn't like you gotta like cut down on what kilos and whatnot. It was literally just learning how to train. So I knew my body didn't change too much, but I remember being in the lifts, and then I met a mother and daughter, and they were like, oh, like, are you a trainer? And I was like, yeah. I just started to become a strength trainer. And then the mom looks at the daughter and goes like, you should find her to be your coach because she looks so lean and fit. And then honestly at that moment, it wasn't that I was flattered by her comments about my body, but the fact that I felt very ashamed because I haven't actually started yet. I haven't actually done anything yet. This was just from like 1 year of being vegan and not eating enough, you know, and then to get to where I am. So I was like, don't trust me yet. Like I'm not anything yet. So that made me realize so much about like, oh, just because you look a certain way doesn't mean that you are strong or like that you are anything in that sense. And then so, you know, COVID definitely would be a part of the picture where I went through like a big life change, and then so I gained a lot of weight. It was like very unhealthy. It was like 10 kilos. I was just eating nonstop, like just because it was just, mentally I was just not even in the right mindset to want to like live on every single day, let alone having to care about what I look like. I was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. But what I am very confident of knowing at that moment is that I am 2 years in terms of teaching spin, and that my knowledge of spin and all of that is still there. But it's just that on top of my 2 years of working, I also gained 10 kilos. And then so from there, I think it made me feel a lot more like I wasn't worthy as an instructor because of the way I look. And it took a lot of time to kind of have to remind myself again that it's like, it's about how you teach. And we were talking about this just now, where it's like, as an instructor, you're there to help your clients, you're there to help whoever is there to class, to help them to get better in performance. And it's not about whether you're 10 kilos heavier or lighter, but it's just about you being able to give and push and uplift and support the people that we're there for. And all of this ties to like, I think a lot of how, when we're talking about body image and identity, and I'm gonna shame my mom here a little bit, but sorry mom. So I remember she told me one time, she's like, oh, Jackie, I think you're getting weaker. And I was like, what do you mean I'm getting weaker? She's like, I don't see your abs anymore. So you must be so weak now because I don't see it. I was like, no, it's still there. It's just that there's a layer of fat on top of it. You know, it doesn't mean that I can't plank. It doesn't mean that, you know, you are any weaker because you look a certain way. And that's what I think matters a lot into like a lot of our female trainers here, if you're here, is that, you know, like as a coach, you also gotta always remind yourself of your worthiness and like what you can be proud of who you are as a person. You can be proud of everything that you're doing. You're lifting 100 kilo squats, okay? Like, just because you don't see your abs doesn't mean you're any weaker there. It doesn't mean you're any less worthy of a person. Like, there are moments when I wouldn't even want to go train because I'm like, oh, I'm so fat, why am I even going? Like, at that moment, it was really crap because it's like, it's all about that mindset, and then that mindset of you feeling like less of a person only because of your weight affects our job as well, because then it's like, oh, I'm not good enough, oh, this is that, comes in just because of your image, just because of how you look. You know, I think in the end I had to learn a lot about, which thankfully from like a lot of friends and the culture that we're setting right now as well, is reminding people that you should be proud of yourself because of the life you live and the way you spend your every single day in workouts, eating healthy, you know, having a balance, being able to do stuff that makes you happy. And all of that matters so much more than just how you look as a person. And I think this is not only for female athletes in particular, but I think again applies for everybody. But I think just as a coach, you might have that more of a correlation of our success with how we look. And so I think this is something that we gotta like always just remind ourselves.
Thanks for sharing that, Jackie. And I think it really nicely ties with the things that Lottie and Soph have been talking about. You know, the language that we use to talk to ourselves, and yeah, the language we use and the intention with which we approach exercise and our bodies. So we are just about to wrap up, and so I wanted to ask all of you to share some wise words, just to wrap up and share a bit about maybe what you would say to someone who's younger than you or someone in your life if they were working on having a kinder relationship with food in their bodies. Just a couple of wise words.
Yeah, I can start. I think, the reason why, we put on these events as well is for the younger generation of girls growing up, or why I coach U10 rugby to girls as well, and I just want them to be in an environment where they can see, like, women with muscles, and that's normal instead of abnormal. But I think what I would say is just, I wish I knew to be aware of my environment. Like, when I'm walking in the MTR now, I can see these banners of like Chinese, small, skinny, advertising some sort of like weight loss thing in the MTR. There. And I think growing up, I just wasn't aware that that's like actually affecting my brain as I grow up. And now I'm kind of like, nope. I'm not gonna look at that. And then also on like creating that environment is surrounding yourself with people who, like Lottie said, care about you for who you are. And, if you add a couple of kilos, lose a couple of kilos, add some muscle, lose some muscle, it doesn't matter because that's not like the essence of who you are. So just finding those people who remind you, because there are days like we're sitting here, gone through these journeys, but there are many days where I'm like, this is going to take ages to get over. Like 23 years of environment ingrained into you. This is what beauty is. This is what femininity is. It's probably going to take like another 23, maybe more years to get it out. But surrounding yourselves with the right people to help you do that is important. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Thanks. That's great.
I think that kind of leads on to mine. The whole aspect of like your journey and stuff. It's a never-ending journey. There's no destination. Enjoy the kind of process, so to speak. But be kind to yourself. Talk to yourself like you would your sister, your mother, your best friend, something like that. And just be patient. Like, talk to people. Pretty much. Be kind.
I love that. I love that about like how you talk to yourself matters so much. And yeah, always treating yourself like you're talking to your friend.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Jackie.
He said a couple words and I was like, motto is like, muscles is the new skinny, it's just, and especially now that we've joined in with like Get Onside and all of these different campaigns of like female empowerment, I think it's very grateful to see such good feedback from everybody and that we all are in support of this sort of new value that's coming in, which is like breaking down a lot of the traditional values of like what we should look like as a female, what we should be like as a female, which is a completely different topic. But just learning that, gaining, like in terms of gaining strength or like being a stronger woman is now the new trend, I would say. Like, this is the way we should be going. No more hiding in the back. No more just looking a certain way because we were told to like be in a certain beauty standard. Go do you, be you, everything, embrace everything that you are.
I think the great main message that we have is, diverse bodies are beautiful, and I've heard such great stories from you all today, and thanks for being a great audience as well. This was such a supportive space to share these stories, and I'm sure, I'm hoping that you'll stick around for our next panel and give a round of applause to our panelists here. Thank you so much, and Jackie.
Thank you so much.